Are you struggling to get your text to display correctly in a CSS grid layout? It can be really frustrating when your text doesn't behave the way you want it to. Today, we're going to tackle how to set text overflow to ellipsis in a CSS grid layout. I totally get it. You want your text to be neatly truncated with an ellipsis when it overflows, but it just doesn't seem to work. You're not alone in this. Many developers face similar challenges when working with CSS grids. Here's the specific question we're addressing today. One user asked, how do I set text overflow to ellipsis in a CSS grid layout? They mentioned that their text is in a div with a width of 1 fraction unit, but the ellipsis isn't showing up as expected. Sound familiar? Let's dive into this together. So, what's going wrong here? The issue often arises because the text overflow property needs a few other properties to work correctly. We need to ensure that the container has a defined width and that the overflow is set properly. Let's break it down step by step. And stick around. I have a handy tip at the end that will help you avoid this issue in the future. You won't want to miss it. To achieve the desired text overflow effect, the user should first ensure that the container div has a defined width. In this case, since the grid layout is being used, the user can set the width of the grid item to a specific value. Next, the user needs to apply the necessary CSS properties to the text container. This includes setting the overflow property to hidden and the whitespace property to now wrap. Now, the user should ensure that the grid layout is properly configured. The grid item containing the text must be set to use the correct grid column settings to allow for the overflow effect to take place. Finally, the user can test the layout by adding long text to the grid item. If everything is set up correctly, the text should truncate with an ellipsis when it exceeds the available space. Fun fact, the ellipsis in CSS is a great way to keep your design clean and user-friendly. It's like giving your text a stylish haircut, neat and tidy. Now let's look at the answers provided by other users. An alternative solution from another user suggests adding 2 additional CSS properties. To make the text overflow work correctly, include overflow hidden and whitespace now wrap along with text overflow ellipsis. Now, let's shift our focus to a different response. An alternative solution provided by another user suggests 2 important additions for using text overflow with ellipsis. First, you need to include overflow hidden to ensure that the text is clipped. Second, apply whitespace now wrap to prevent the text from breaking into a new line. That's the end of that answer. Let's see another perspective. An alternative solution provided by another user suggests defining a height for the text container. They recommend setting the whitespace property to now wrap and using overflow hidden to ensure that the text is truncated properly with an ellipsis. Here's that handy tip I promised. Always remember to check your parent container's width and the properties of your grid items. This will save you a lot of headaches down the road. And there you have it. Your text should now truncate with an ellipsis in your CSS grid layout. Remember, proper setup is key. If you found this video helpful, please subscribe for more tips and don't forget to check out our next video for more CSS tricks.